the Gen Z podcast. 4 voices, unfiltered opinions on today's topics. We welcome you to speak freely and think deeply about today's episode.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z podcast. I'm your host, Zach Curley, and we are joined by Micah McNeil, Felipe Segura, and Gavin Farnan. And today we have Sebastian Paredes with us, founder and CEO of Interlix Staffing. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you so much for the invitation. You know, I'm hyped for the podcast.
Yeah. So, Sebastian, you and I met at Babson. We were both students, but take me back before that. You shared with me your story, how your family emigrated to the United States when you were 8 years old, and now you're working to, as they built a bridge for you to come to the U.S., you're building the bridge in reverse now to go back to Latin America and helping the people there. Tell us about your story and how it's led you to where you are.
No, definitely. So I was born in Cuenca, Ecuador, small city in Ecuador, and you know my family had like a small business, and we sell products from Colombia, and you know as any Latin American country, I would say, you know, political things came into the country. They couldn't sell no more products from Colombia, and by I mean it was like products like coffee, chocolates, small things like a deli store, let's say. And then my family lost everything, and then they decided to immigrate to New York to start from zero and also to pay debt from the inventory that we had, because you know we basically lost our business from one day to another day. Everything was gone, so it was just more of a desperation act of us like finding a way to survive and be like the bank took our house, like we lost everything. So it was just more of like, let's go to America to chase that American dream. And you know we immigrated to New York. I grew up in Washington Heights, did a lot of stuff. I did a bit of music, of rap battles in Spanish. So that was actually how I got a scholarship to Babson, because I would do rap battles. I created like a small rap crew in New York. We got sponsored by Red Bull, and that was what I talk about my essays and my interviews, and Babson saw that. Babson gave me the opportunity to be able to attend Babson College.
Very good. Wow, so a rap star. Maybe we'll have to do some more short form content and get a little rap in there.
No, we can do some rap battles like after this.
So now you work on Interlix Staffing, which provides jobs to people in South America with American firms.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you coming and having the immigrant background to then give back to where your roots are in South America?
So when I was in Babson College, you know, I tried out like 20 ideas, and I was just trying out different type of ideas to kind of like start a business. I knew me be able to attend Babson was in a sense a miracle and a golden opportunity for me. So I knew I had to take advantage of my resources. So I met a couple of founders, and I saw that they were looking for developers in Ecuador. And that's when I told them, hey, you can just hire my cousin instead of paying, you know, $70 in the USA. Just, you know, hire my cousin for $20. He's gonna be grateful for his entire life. And I made the connection. It actually happened. He got the job, and then he kept asking me. He was like, hey, Sebastian, I know you're Latino. You probably have a big family. Do you have more cousins? And just kept going from there. You know, they kept asking me. And at first it was easy because it was like someone I knew, but then I kind of had the idea of doing this more of a elaborated ways, and you know, breaking into startups to establish businesses and be able to provide them with Latin America talent. So that's how I got into the industry. I met my co-founder, who was great at sales. She knew how to sell anything. She used to book my friend DJ in Bijou in the nightclubs there.
Okay.
So I know she was great at sales. So I told her about the idea. She loved the idea, and then we started working together. And then since then I haven't looked back. And we realized that in countries like Argentina, in specific, or Brazil and Colombia, there's really good talent. And because we pay them in dollars, the dollar it gives you the chance to be able to hire top talent at a less rate than the United States, and they're gonna be grateful for the rest of their life to be able to have an established job. Because as my story, Latin America is very unstable. From one day to another day, you can lose everything. So finding a stable job in the United States is also kind of like our mission at Interlix.
And I imagine it has a big impact on the people who you hire.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like we were talking before, our head recruiter, he has been working with us 2 years, and he was recently able to afford a surgery for his mom. And it was very emotional when he was able to afford that, because I remember when we started working, he told me about his mom being sick and how that was one of his goals, working with us, and then seeing actually that happen after 2 years, it really like hit me. I was like, wow, like I'm so happy. And just seeing how by them earning US dollars, having a higher salary, it changes their whole life. They can support for their kids, their families. They can, maybe go to a better neighborhood, send their kids to a better school. So it's just, being able to give back. And then for companies in the United States, they're hiring top tier talent. So it's kind of like a no-brainer from both sides.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a positive sum game on both ends. On one end, you're helping these companies recruit talent from around the world, and on the second end, I think the part that was sort of your motivation for building this is the people back home also get a chance at a very stable and economic life. To be able to pay for their mom's surgery or to afford a home. It's beautiful to hear that.
No, thank you. And also, one of my friends in Babson was interning for a staffing company. He kind of told me how the business model works, because obviously if you go into business, you have to know, okay, how are you going to make money out of it? So then I saw how they take a percentage of the salary, or they do a margin from the hourly rate. So that's where kind of like I was able to position myself, especially knowing that in Latin America, the salary is a bit less than the United States. I was able to position myself in a middle, I would say like in a middle zone, where it's still cost effective for the company, and still the candidates in Latin America are making good salary, and I'm taking my percentage as a staffing provider. So that's kind of like how it all came to be. Yeah.
Amazing.
And Sebastian, you being in like a mature industry, how has that been? Like, how has it been working against the competition that might be, 60 years old, and a business that's 50 plus years old too? So how is it, one, being in that mature industry and competing against all these older people? And do you see that as an advantage, that you're kind of new and in a different location maybe, and that has different talent? So would love to get your thoughts on that. But also one note on the rapping piece. Sebastian, actually, we were in the same class called Ultimate Entrepreneurship Challenge at Babson. And
Shout out to
Sebastian, shout out Len Green. Sebastian would rap in front of the entire class. It was one of the best. It was a highlight of the year, absolutely. So just to give you some kudos for your rapping talent.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, no, first of all, thank you so much, and yeah, shout out to Len Green. Len Green is awesome. And then answering your question, obviously, I'm only 22. As you can see, I have no beard, nothing. So when I go to like sometimes, go and meet clients and be like, hey, I'm a staffing vendor, they look at me and like they laugh, like, who's this kid? So yeah, it is a bit hard in that sense. Some people don't take they don't take you as serious as they should be. Other people, in hindsight, because they see you that you're so young, they're actually surprised. They're surprised. They're like, oh, I want to hear more about what you're doing. So there's their benefits and disadvantage at the same time. I would say like being young can benefit as people are surprised about the fact that you're doing this so young. So they are more open to your idea of what you're proposing. But at the same time, perhaps they don't think that you have enough experience, which is totally understandable. But one funny thing is that because our staffing solution is innovative in the sense that they're hiring people from Latin America rather than the US, that kind of helps me of me being young, because it's a new idea, and also I'm a young founder. So I think that kind of like matches who I am as a founder. The innovative idea of like staffing is a new thing that is going on in the United States. But yeah, there's this benefits, like I said before, but also it's disadvantage. You just have to deal with it. And more than anything, when you start talking and they see that you actually have knowledge about the industry and you have case studies proving what you have done works, that's when they open their ears and actually hear to you.
And how was it I'm in client work as well, so how was it when you didn't have that reputation and when you didn't have those clients to say, hey, look, like we've done this before, we've done exactly what you're asking us to do? And was it kind of just an extension of I started with my cousins. I hired them for other companies and then just expanded? Or how did that natural progression work?
Yeah, so I do say perhaps I had like beginner's luck when I did a placement with my cousins, but that was my case study. And obviously, like I never lied, but I would just tell them, hey, look, this is a case study I have. Even though it was my only case study I had, I knew it worked, and I would present that. And I would tell them because I knew the thing worked. So I also focused on finding good talent. So perhaps they were not placing any of the companies, but I had like the resumes. I had videos of them talking about their experience, where they had work, showcasing their skills, and then presenting them like, hey, look, this person, let's say Martin from Argentina, is a marketing specialist, is a senior at using HubSpot, just what you're looking for. So for me, it was just showcasing more my service rather than my clients. And the only case study I had was the case study I would bring everywhere. And more than anything, it took time. It took a year for me to actually build that up and build reputation and a lot of no's, but my solution was just time. I think after a year of doing this constantly, I kind of had like, okay, now I actually have a couple of clients, but that was something that it was with time more than anything.
And that's a sort of perfect segue into wanting to ask about sort of your motivations, right? In that year of when you were sort of doing discovery and trying to figure out like what actually works and then expanding on that, I would assume you went through periods of like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Should I stop? Sort of that pendulum of like euphoria and then, dismay on the opposite end. So if you can you dive into that a little bit?
No, definitely. I always say I think the hardest part was just working without seeing results. Because after I got my first successful placement, I probably spent like 4 months without any clients. And then I had a client, and then after 2 months, they just drop us. And because, I had to learn those lessons. But the hardest thing was working without seeing results. And I probably would tell you it took us almost a year to us actually become stable as a company. And it was 10 months of working 12 to 14 hours without seeing results. And for me, my motivation is I changed my mind frame. For me was that, okay, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to work, give my 100%. And if at the end it doesn't work, at least I already will build up the skill sets that will help me in my career. So I stopped thinking about the business itself, which is weird, but I just stopped thinking about the business, but me as an entrepreneur. I was like, I'm gonna go and do this, I'm gonna suffer, get all the skill sets, sales, marketing, branding, and just build up my skill sets and, develop myself as an entrepreneur. And if it doesn't work, it's fine.
That's super interesting. I feel like even a lot of sometimes it feels like they tried something, right? They tried, the market didn't want it, they stop. But I love the angle that you're looking at it, where it's like, even if this wasn't to work, I absorbed and retained the assets that I needed, right? Eventually something would have figured itself out. So it's really nice to hear.
Like for me it was just like, I'm gonna just work on this, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, but at least I'm gonna improve as a human being. And then, like if it takes with time, everything works out. And it took me, I would say, 10 months then to actually get the business. And then in the year mark was like, oh wow, now I can pay food, now I can afford rent. Because before that I was eating tuna cans, sleeping from couch to couch for my friends. Like it was very tough, and many of my friends told me, hey, I think you should like do something else or like give up. But for me, like I just kind of like convinced myself in the sense I was delusional that I'm just gonna do it to become a better entrepreneur, and perhaps the next venture I will go into, I already will have these skill sets with me. So I changed my mindset in that sense.
And I think that this is such a poignant topic that I want to dive deeper in, because I'm sure a lot of our audience base is, you said it took a year, I'm sure a lot of our audience base is 8 months in and they're like, damn, I've been giving resources, my time, my money, my energy, and I'm not seeing an ROI. I need dollars at the end of the day. So you're sleeping on your friends' couches, you're eating tuna out of a can. I'm sure some days you wake up and you're like, all right, like I'm the staffing guy, I can find a job. Did that, I'm sure that crossed your mind. How did you fight that back?
For me, I just told myself I'm gonna do a year. And then in the year I'm gonna figure out, and like I told you, I had that mindset, I'm just gonna give my 100%. So then when at least the year finishes, I know deep inside I have peace of mind.
You gave it your all.
I gave it my all. So it was just that, and like to be honest, I was just delusional. For me, I was just like I was like I'm gonna keep going, and the thing that actually helped me, which perhaps I was lucky in that sense, was that I already had proven my theory because with my cousin it worked, and I had revenue like the first couple of months with my cousin's placement. So I'm like, okay, this gave me money, this works. It's not like I'm trying to do something that is not out there. It works, and I was seeing many different competitors from the Philippines doing the same type of business and growing. So I knew it worked. I just knew I had to find the right talent and also get the right client. Because what my main problem was, I would sell to solo entrepreneurs with small businesses that didn't have the capacity for the payroll. They might hire someone and then after 3 months fire them.
Right.
Or they might hire someone part-time, and part-time placement in the staffing industry doesn't work because that candidate might find another job, or that company might not actually care too much about the employee because it's part-time. So it was just a learning process, and then yeah, like for me it was just like I don't know, to be honest. I think I just convinced myself that I'm gonna do a year and it's gonna work out. And I think what helped me was that because I come from very humble beginnings, you know, I in a sense I grew up with nothing. So I was already with nothing. I was used to it. I'm like, it's fine, you know. At least I have a roof over my head. Like, for me, I think that was a thing because I came from nothing. If I lost, if I lost, I would have lost nothing in a sense because it was like the same playing field, you know. Like,
Beautiful.
so it was weird in that sense. I was like,
That's amazing.
it was like a superpower being able to come from nothing. Because if I lose, I'm like, okay, it's the same. I'm in the same place, you know. It's not like I lost money or something. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, super powerful. Big picture. Interlix connects South Latin America with North America. What are the benefits that you've seen of the cross-border collaboration?
One thing that I've seen that is great is that some companies are actually perhaps trying to bring their businesses, especially startups, to Latin America because they know there's a big market. So by them actually hiring someone from, let's say, Argentina or Brazil, they can actually try out the product in those countries. So I have seen this with a startup. They basically, it's like they do deals with the restaurants. They're creating like an app where you can see all the deals of the restaurants in Miami. And they hire someone from Argentina. And they were like, hey, you're in Argentina. You actually can go and actually see if our app or what the customers think about our app in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So that's something good because now you can have contacts in Latin America. And plus, you know, having them being bilingual is, especially right now, United States, I would say 40% of the population now speaks Spanish, so Spanish is a must. So if you have a bilingual professional, it really benefits your own company.
Zooming out, and I mean, I love everything that you've said previous about kind of your motivation going through starting this business. I'm personally from Argentina, my family is. So I do know that a lot of people in Argentina who work as developers in the US, because to be honest, developing at the end of the day is just it's a language. And so if you know that language, you can code. And I think we've seen kind of the height of a market in the US, right? Where you're getting paid $200,000, some of these developers, when maybe in Argentina or another country, you don't have to pay them that much money to do the same job. So that's great. I guess zooming out, one question we have then is your mentality, which I love about how you kind of got into the business. Do you think that that is something that is necessary for any entrepreneur in Gen Z, which is if it goes well, great. If it goes bad, whatever. I mean, what is your advice to these aspiring entrepreneurs, some of which are in our audience? Kind of, how do you start a business? What's that mindset? You know, what are some of the things you wish you knew or would have done different?
Yeah, no, I think definitely one of the main things is just building your skill sets. Because if you have your skill sets, you know, it's not something that you lose. And, you know, let's say for some reason, you know, something happens, they banned offshoring. I already know how to do sales. I already know how to do marketing, branding. I know how the paid ads work. So I think the main thing as an entrepreneur is just building out those skill sets, because those skill sets can be transferred from one business to another business. And I actually give kudos to Alex Formosi. That's where I saw from him. Because at that time, I was also watching a lot of content and learning from big entrepreneurs, reading books, seeing podcasts. And that was also motivating me to keep going because I knew that it's not like you see on Instagram, 3 months in and then you're making 10K a month. It's not like that. You need at least a year, I would say so. And I have mentors as well that, maybe on the third year, I recently met a person that on their 7th year, they started making profits. And now they're a big company. They basically fix home equipment, like let's say your fridge broke or your oven, and they do it in New York City with big apartments, property management. They make contracts. And in their 7th year, they started making money. For me, that was insane. So that just proves that it's all about the skill sets at the end of the day. And when someone wants to start a business, I would say the main thing is finding a product or a service that people need. And what I did myself was that I would go to networking events pitching my service or pitching a product that I was thinking of doing. And if people were actually interested in booking a meeting, I knew that that idea had potential. I knew that idea at one point in Babson, I tried to sell watches. And I would be like, oh, I have X watch. I didn't have anything. I was just asking to see if people needed watches. Yeah. Then, I realized that some people did, some people no. I didn't go through, but, one person actually asked me if he wanted to watch he wanted to buy a watch I was actually like promoting. And I'm like, okay, so there's demand in this specific. So in a sense, it's selling without having a product just to see if there's demand. If there's demand, then you can maybe go ahead and try out more things about that idea or that stuff. And if you can sell a product or a service without having it, I think that basically proves the concept of business.
I have two questions for you, Sebastian. One is really, what do you say to the people that are like, oh, I have to reach X in order to start something? Like I feel like a lot of people will say, oh, I have to get to this amount of money in the bank account in order to have a safe footing to dive in and really go for it. And then two, I'm very curious as to how you found your team. Like I know you work with your brother. I want to dive into that a bit, but is that like were you just on your own for the first 8 months or so, and then you looked for a team, and did you build that out yourself, or how did that progress throughout the months?
Yeah.
And if I can add to Gavin's question, it might not also be money. Sometimes a lot of people think like I need to reach a certain career like experience, like I need to do 2-3 years at this job, and then I can kind of prove to people that, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you say it, right? But like that is in a lot of people's heads, right? Like I need to do this before I start a business, right?
Yeah. Well, I think like the first thing is that you have to sit down with yourself and actually see, okay, is being an entrepreneur a goal in my life? Is actually becoming a business owner something I want to do in life? Because some people, they don't want to be an entrepreneur. Perhaps they want to be a CFO of a company, or their passion is something totally different than becoming a business owner. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. So for me, I sat with myself and I knew that becoming an entrepreneur, business owner was one of my goals I had in my life. So for me, more than anything, I was young and I didn't have anything going on for me. I basically had no money, nothing, so for me, it was like, I have nothing to lose. So that's why I went, and I knew I was young, I had the energy. It was a perfect scenario for me. Obviously, for some other people, like if you are a father and you have kids, and perhaps you don't have too much of a saving, starting a business might not be the best idea for you, because then how are you going to provide for your kids? So it also depends in your life situation. I do see that for some people, they might need that money resources, but if you are young, maybe let's say you live with your parents, or you have free housing somehow, or you don't have a family to provide for, just go for it. You are young. And the worst thing is that you fail and then you learn something from that and you gain those skill sets. So, I would say it depends on your life situation. If you are a young Gen Z and you don't have kids, and perhaps you can live with your parents or find a place, or you're in campus living for free, then why not? Go and try it, Go and try it. And many ideas can be started with zero investment. My idea, staffing is people. I didn't have to buy inventory up front or create a software. So for me, it was just, selling that and then finding the person and connecting. So, and there's many businesses that can be started like that. You just have to look. For example, for roofing, you can sell a project of roofing and then find a contractor that can do the roofing for you. So it's all about selling at the end of the day. And then what was the second question? Sorry.
Yeah, just how you progressed with your team, like how you built that out. Were you on your own for the first half of it, and then you just looked to your right and was like, "Hey, you want to join?" and then he just joined the team, or how did that work?
So when I started my business, I started with a friend in Babson, and we were co-founders. After like 3 months, like the business wasn't doing well, we were not finding clients. So he actually, we decided to part ways. And when we decided to part ways, I knew my friend Sheikha, and she was awesome in sales. I knew I had the service. I needed to get the clients. That was my main thing, getting clients, and that's through sales. And she would book my friend Santiago Copoleta, if you see the on like the nightclubs for Bijou. We get him gigs in restaurants in Boston because she would cold call them. And I knew she had this talent for selling, so we were really good friends. And she was a workaholic. I'm like, she works like 3 jobs on campus. She's like amazing. So when I came with the idea, I told her, hey, you can help me. I can give you a commission for this. And then we started working together, and I just clicked with her. I think one of the biggest things when finding a co-founder is being reliable, and she was very reliable. And even though perhaps she wasn't like full-time during those first couple of months where I was, she was always there for me. We had to stay up Friday night, maybe sending a proposal to a client, she would do. And that's something perhaps I didn't find with my first co-founder, the reliability more than anything, that work ethic, because she would work as much hours as possible, even with school and other stuff she was doing. So finding a person that has your same work ethic, I think, is the number one thing when finding a co-founder. And then my brother, cousin is Richard. I know we have the same last name, but Richard, I grew up with him. His family immigrated here 2012. So we kind of grew up together. We always do things together, and he's really good in marketing. He's studying marketing in Binghamton. So I just told him, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to join? And, we have always done things together. If it was the rap battles, we did it together. If it was anything, we did together. So it was kind of like someone that I could trust, and he helped him doing the marketing part-time, and then now he's joining more full-time. But yeah, Richard was just kind of like somebody that I grew up with, and we had the same values, the same goals, and the same mindset, so that really helped.
Amazing. You mentioned it when we were talking before, but you hear a lot of discourse today that the American dream is dead. That was a thing of the past. What do you have to say to people that say the American dream is dead?
That they might be crazy, but because the American dream is still here. The United States is the country of opportunities. I don't think there's a country that gives so much resources to minorities, to immigrants, to people of color, to people from different genders. And I think it's just so easy to start a business. Like I said, you can open an LLC and a bank account for your business in 1 week. If you go to Colombia, Ecuador, you might need 2 months to able to open a bank account for your business. So it's so easy to start a business here, and there's so many opportunities here. So yeah, the United States is still the land of freedom, the land of opportunities, and there's no better country to start a business than here.
Speaking of opportunities, let's give some highlight to our alma mater. You earlier said that going to Babson was like a golden ticket for you.
Yeah.
What was it like being surrounded in an entrepreneurial environment? How did that help develop you into who you are today?
Yeah, I think that was one of the necessary steps, because I saw it firsthand. So that kind of opened to me to like, oh wow, it is possible. Because just coming from where I came from, and like growing up, in a low income community, I didn't even know like you can actually become successful if you start from nothing. You see this in the movies or maybe on social media, but actually seeing people start a business from nothing and be successful, that really opened my eyes. And one of my advisors, actually, Nuno Matos, he's a Babson dropout, but we were friends, and I saw him start his business in his dorm. He sells mining equipment and hardware for Bitcoin mining to different companies. So he started selling on a Facebook marketplace, and he would come to my room and be like, because I had a single, be like, oh, can you store the mining equipment? And then his business started growing, and then he dropped out of Babson and then pursued his business full time, and now he's doing amazing. He's actually one of the advisors for Interlix and the one that gave me his couch when I was like doing my business. But yeah, like I saw him start from nothing and make a business. So I knew I was like, okay, it is possible. And just, being his friend and meeting other people from the E-Tower or seeing other entrepreneurs, professors who have started businesses like Len Green. And just like, it opens to you that, wow, this is possible. Like, it's not like a fairy tale. It is possible. And learning from them, you learn from them as well. I learned so much from Nuno. I learned so much from my professors, just seeing them do their business. And it just helps you a lot.
Wow. Well, Sebastian Paredes, picture perfect example of fortitude and persistence. Thank you for coming on the Gen Z podcast.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here.